Good afternoon. Just to flag that tomorrow we will have as our guest Susan Jane Ferguson, who is the UN Women Representative for Afghanistan. She will be briefing us virtually from Kabul to discuss the 4-year mark of the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. Let me start with the situation in Sudan today. A year ago, in August of 2024, famine was confirmed in the Zamzam camp and has since spread to areas in Darfur and Kordofan. Currently, 17 areas are classified as at risk of famine, including parts of Darfur, the Nuba Mountains, Khartoum, and Gezira. Since then, the situation, especially in Fasher, has only gotten worse, as we've been telling you almost on a daily basis. Our friends at the World Food Program today called for humanitarian access to Fasher that is facing starvation and remains cut off from humanitarian assistance. World Food Program says that as a coping mechanism, some residents of the area are reportedly surviving on animal fodder and food waste. The World Food Program continues to provide digital cash support to roughly 250,000 people in the city, allowing them to buy the dwindling food left in the markets. However, the escalating needs make it imperative to address the hunger situation at a scale that is actually required. We reiterate our concern about the ongoing conflict and renew our calls for all parties to end the violence and resolve the dialogue and to put the interest of their people first. Turning to Gaza, we're continuing with our efforts to bring in goods and fuel into the Gaza Strip. Updates from today's movements have yet to arrive back to us here in New York, as some missions are still ongoing. But I can tell you that yesterday our teams collected food and fuel from the Karim Shalom and the Zikim crossing. While more than half of the 15 missions coordinated with the Israeli security authorities were facilitated, the remaining ones were either canceled, denied, or impeded. Meanwhile, the entry of goods has improved the market situation in terms of both prices and availability. For example, after peaking at about 600 shekels per bag, which is about the equivalent of $175, I'm told, in the past 2 weeks, the price of sugar has dropped to an average of 40 shekels or $12. However, severe cash shortages are preventing families from being able to buy food, being able to buy water, and being able to buy medicine. As a reminder, the amount of aid and goods that can be brought into Gaza does not meet the minimum requirements of people who are starving. A ceasefire is critically needed to reach all those in need, along with sustained and scaled-up flow of aid. Today, the Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that 8 people, including 3 children, died due to malnutrition and starvation over the past 24 hours. Such reports have become a daily occurrence, reflecting the deepening humanitarian crisis and the urgent need for sustained assistance. Also today, our colleagues at the World Health Organization conducted a refresher training at the Rantisi Children's Hospital to help staff members stay current with new information, focusing on inpatient management of malnutrition. Rantisi is one of the 5 nutrition stabilization centers in Gaza and one of the only 2 located in Gaza City. The record surge in malnutrition cases among children has necessitated the establishment and scaling up of those centers. So far this year, more than 340 children have been admitted for malnutrition treatment at these centers in Gaza, and this year, as of August 5th, 49 validated children deaths from malnutrition have been reported, including 39 children under the age of 5. Data collected by ourselves and our partners from over 900 households across Gaza in July indicated continuous trauma leading to mental health issues, including anxiety and depression. Many people are living in informal shelters that are overcrowded, they're unsafe, and they lack space and privacy, especially for women and children. Care staff themselves are traumatized, and today partners working on protection started providing mental health and psychosocial support for their own teams in Gaza. Our humanitarian colleagues remind us that shelter items are a priority as supplies have run out, leaving people exposed to the summer heat and with nothing to protect them from when winter comes. Many tents and tarpaulins need to be replaced as they will not be able to withstand the elements. Meanwhile, households also continue to report poor sanitation and lack of clean water. In southern Gaza, the Israeli-supplied water pipeline has been damaged for almost a week now, impacting water supply of thousands of people in the area. Moving to Syria, the UN Children's Fund today said that recent violence in Sweden has left a heavy toll on the community there. At least 22 children were killed and 21 more were injured. During the violence in July and early August, vital infrastructure such as water, electricity networks were reportedly critically damaged in the fighting. At least 5 health centers were under attack back in July, with 2 physicians killed, an ambulance obstructed, and that's according to the World Health Organization. To address these issues, UNICEF has recently deployed 14 mobile health and nutrition teams and provided health supplies and nutrition supplies to more than 4,000 children and women, as well as safe drinking water and fuel for water pumping stations, benefiting more than 30,000 people. During the violence, more than 190,000 people, mainly women and children, were forced to flee their homes. We underscore that in order to assist those in need and to ensure an effective response, it is critical that humanitarian and commercial goods have unhindered access to the most impacted communities there. And a report published today by the UN Human Rights Office calls on the government of Sri Lanka to seize the historic opportunity to break the entrenched impunity and implement transformative reforms. The report also calls for the government to deliver long overdue justice and accountability for serious violations and abuses committed in the past, including international crimes. Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, noted that today an opportunity presents itself for Sri Lanka to break from the past, with the leadership pledging a fresh direction on long-standing issues. He emphasized the need for this process should start with a clear and formal acknowledgement of the violations and abuses of crimes that occurred during the civil war. The report comes shortly after Mr. Turk's visit to the country, where he engaged with the government, civil society, victims groups, political parties, and religious leaders. Full update is on the interweb, and I'm done. Edie, then Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. Going back to the 49 children who've died of malnutrition, including the 39 of them under the age of 5. Is that figure just from the 5 nutrition centers that you mentioned before?
I mean, those are recorded numbers. They may very well be others who have died from the same causes that were not recorded either by ourselves or by the local health authorities. Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, was in New York yesterday. He met at the U.S. mission, holding meetings there. Do you know if any UN officials took part in any meetings with Witkoff yesterday?
Yes, Joyce Masuya, our Assistant Secretary General in charge of the Department of Humanitarian Affairs, met with Mr. Witkoff. They had a constructive discussion on the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza and the need to speedily scale up aid into Gaza. Benno, then Ibtisam.
Sorry. Regarding humanitarian aid in Gaza, I understand that your bottom line is it's not enough, and there's still a lot of blocking, I guess. But can you tell us, it seemed to have gotten a little bit better. Is that a correct assumption? And could you
I think there's a bit more volume that we're seeing, but nowhere what we had during the ceasefire, nowhere where we need to be.
Are you in any way able to put a number on this or something?
We're trying to kind of crunch numbers because, as you know, the counting trucks isn't always effective. And it's also, we've seen there is aid, there's aid that's delivered to the Israeli side of the crossings. Then there's the aid that we actually manage to pick up. Then there's the aid that often gets looted or self-distributed on the way to the distribution points. And there's the aid that we're actually able to distribute. So we're trying to crunch some numbers and to give you a better perspective. Ibtisam Azam Dendeji.
Thank you. On Sudan, so you said that there are areas like pockets or new areas that are affected by famine. Do you have numbers, and could you remind us, please, why actually, of course, the war, but not everywhere war results in famine for civilians. So who is not allowing food distribution in these areas and access? Thank you.
Well, we've had at various times the various parties, to the two parties to the conflict, hinder the distribution of humanitarian aid. We had reports yesterday, the Abu Shuk camp, if I'm not mistaken, local authorities told us that it was likely RSF attacks. The famine that we're seeing are in places that we just cannot get to, right, and that are just blockaded by the continued fighting. We saw, I think this was early July, the tragic attack on a UN convoy where our colleagues and local colleagues had traveled, I think, more than 1,800 kilometers only to be attacked just as they were getting to Fasher. So the conflict in itself is the number one culprit in the dire humanitarian situation. And of course, on top of that, you had the challenges that Sudan was facing beforehand.
Sorry, I have another question. On Gaza, the health ministry is, local health ministry in Gaza reporting that the death of famine reached 235 people, including 106 children. Could you confirm that?
I had numbers yesterday. We'll see if they're updated, but I reported on numbers yesterday, but let me see if I can update them. Deji.
Yes, a follow-up on the situation in Palestine. Today, Israeli Foreign Minister Saad said again that Israel will not allow the implementation of the two-state solution. I can quote him a little bit. He said a Palestinian state within the 1967 lines would place Israel's population center in grave danger, and he called that a suicidal action. Is the Secretary General disappointed on this statement? And more importantly, without the support of Israel, how could this can be implemented?
Let me just say, we're not surprised by this statement. We continue to be committed to the implementation of a two-state solution. Many member states are. You saw the meeting that took place here in July. There will likely be another meeting, a much more high-level meeting taking place during the General Assembly. We can't think of another solution for Palestine and Israel to exist and to coexist in peace and security.
I checked the declaration of the State of Israel, and I quote this. He said, on the strength of the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly, hereby declare the establishment of a Jewish state in Israel, in Eretz Israel, to be known as the State of Israel. So they use UN. One of the reason they established the State of Israel is the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly. Now they denied the two-state solution, which is also from a GA resolution. How do you see this kind of inconsistency?
Listen, you are the journalist. You can analyze. You can do the compare and contrast. You know what our position is. It is unwavering. It is very clear, and it is very direct. Sinan, I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Stéphane. I have two questions. First, what is Secretary General's reaction to ongoing eruptions of violence between Syrian government and Syrian democratic forces?
We're very concerned about what we're seeing, and we would like to see it move in a different direction, a more peaceful direction.
Second question is, as you know, there was a meeting scheduled in Paris between Syrian democratic forces and transitional government, but for some reason, I guess, Damascus canceled this meeting. And do you have any comment on that?
Not at this point. Edie.
Thank you, Steph. You said that Mr. Witkoff and Joyce Masuya discussed the need to scale up humanitarian aid to Gaza. Was there an agreement to pressure Israel to open more crossings or anything else to try and get
listen, it was a
made in?
It was a very, I mean, and constructive. I think sometimes that can be has a negative connotation, but it was a very good meeting. I think it was very good for our colleagues to be able to speak to Mr. Witkoff directly, pass on our concerns. The U.S. side passed on their concerns. And I think we will continue to be in contact with him and with his team in an effort to remove the roadblocks, both figuratively and literally, that continue to exist, that hamper our ability to deliver humanitarian aid.
Was there any indication from Mr. Witkoff that he would talk to the Israelis?
I mean, it's clear that Mr. Witkoff is in constant contact with the Israelis, and we'll see how the situation evolves. Okay, on that note, I bid you all, I was going to say good weekend, but it's a bit early for that, so. Too early. Yeah.